Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Salesforce Ben webinar, all about how to build a successful DevOps process. Thank you all for joining us today. Today's session is designed to provide you with valuable insights through hearing about Amazon's experience of building out their DevOps process. The chat will be led by Nicola from GearSet and Nikhil from Amazon. This webinar is more of a fireside chat style webinar, so it will follow an open conversational format. So do feel free to ask questions, share your own experiences, and engage with our speakers throughout the session using our chat box. Any questions that you do share will be addressed in the Q&A portion towards the end of the session. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Nikhil and Nicola, who will share their experiences with you. Enjoy the chat.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We'll get started in a split second, but Nikhil, do you want to start us off with an introduction?
Absolutely, Nicola. Thanks for the call. Hey, I'm Nikhil. I work as a senior technical program manager at Amazon in Buy with Prime segment. My main focus is on Salesforce and databases. I build the Salesforce tool and product for sales, product, and marketing teams over here. I work with the stakeholders, business, technology teams, and SDs around it, and build the Salesforce system for the sales capability here.
Amazing. I'm Nicola. I'm the community manager at GearSet, and I'm very lucky that I get to work with some of our amazing customers like Nikhil through our GearSet DevOps Leaders program and other community members as well. So, Nikhil, you mentioned that you work with the Buy with Prime team at Amazon. For those that don't know, what is Buy with Prime and what does your team use Salesforce for?
Sure. So it's both Buy with Prime and multi-channel fulfillment are the two orgs that I work with. So Buy with Prime is a key benefit that we provide as for the Prime members for free and fast to deliveries that people already know on Amazon to a third-party merchants. Like, for example, if you're buying from a different website, you can still buy using Prime from that website if you're a Prime member, and you get the products in 2 to 3 days shipping, which is already available. So multi-channel fulfillment is another thing for the merchants where they can have multiple channels of like Instagram, Facebook, Target, Walmart, everything. And they can use Amazon's logistics and shipping mechanisms to ship to the customers from Amazon side. So these are the two teams I work with, and we built the Salesforce, which centralizes for both the orgs, for sales and marketing teams and also product teams. This platform, we launched the merchants on this. We support from lead generations to the post-op support, post-sales support, and post-product support as well on this one. This is a major thing. We have a lot of automations around how to enrich the leads, to integrations with third-party tools, and a lot of other things in Buy with Prime multi-channel fulfillment org over here.
Very cool. I do love Prime myself. And I know it's been quite a journey to get to the process you're doing today, your Salesforce DevOps journey. What initially prompted you and your team to implement a Salesforce DevOps process? And how has the process changed over time as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Our sales ops, again, it was an evolving process. We are still evolving. We started this org in 2021. Initially, we were only a 2-people team and a small team, and many people don't like to hear this. We were doing a lot of changes in production, just going there, because adding a pick list in production is very easy compared to just go through the whole DevOps process and all those fun stuff. So we used to do that, and then we realized it's not a right process, and then our team grew as well, and we were having conflicting changes and impacting the stakeholders. We used to change sets, which is already native to Salesforce. We also used SFDX commands, which is more developer friendly. We used to deploy that, but since we are trying to go implement the DevOps process, it did not fit our needs, and it did not support all the requirements what we were looking at. And then we had to go for third-party tools, and we did scope for a lot of third-party tools, and we ended up with GearSet. Again, like, even though we implemented a DevOps tool, that did not mean that we instantaneously went into the final destination where hey, we have all the pipelines and everything done. We just started using DevOps gear set, and then we just use compare and deploy. Again, even with that, we had so many issues around like people overwriting the other people changes. They're not having metadata backups and something around it. So eventually the first step was we were doing the metadata backups, daily backups, or every deployment was a backup over there, and use version control to do that. And then we moved on to the pipelines in March of 2024. After 1.5 years of using Gearset, we moved, the journey went into implementing the pipelines as our team expanded. And we wanted to do ad hoc releases and also do faster releases. And since March, we have reduced our error rate into production deployments to 5%. We used to be 75% errors sometimes. The comparisons used to fail, the validation used to fail. So now we're only at 5% errors. And we have an increase of 113% in comparing deploys. And these can include from anywhere from automated comparisons to manual comparisons over there. And also, since we used to do the releases based on compare and deploys in the past, it used to be slower comparisons. Since we are using pipelines right now, we increased our deployments to 265% since March.
Wow, that's some impressive stats. So yeah, quite a journey then, going right from doing it in production to using Salesforce's free features with change sets, and then fundamental features with Gearset, and then right through to this automated pipeline that you're now using and getting all those impressive stats there. That's really cool. When you were initially looking for a DevOps solution, what was essential for your team?
Sure. So we were looking for, since we already had a process of DevOps using change sets in SFDX command. SFDX command says out of the scope because it's mostly developer friendly and not admin friendly. And we have more admins and developer in our team. We also want to have a tool which is user friendly, and the interface has to be very easy, that it has to have a minimal curve. And minimal learning curve there. And the other one which we felt the issues around were the support. We use everyone in the team used a couple of other development DevOps tools in the past, and the problem everyone mentioned was the support. And we were looking for a tool which has the efficient support and the faster mechanism over there. And this is one of the other tools. And the other thing which we looked at was the familiarity with the tool. If we are looking for a third-party tool, then we want to make sure that at least 50 to 60% of the team already used this in the past. And this was one of the other things. And the other nice to have features which we are looking at were metadata backups, version control deployments. And since we use code commit on Amazon, which is an AWS tool, and integration with code commit. And we're also looking for a tool which is independent out of Salesforce, which should not sit in native Salesforce, which has to be outside and should not, because the main reason we are looking around it was if Salesforce goes down, we still should have something which is already backing up or which we can recover from that. Yeah, there are a lot of other minor things like cherry picking, metadata comparisons, faster pipelines. Those are the nice to have features which GetSet was aligning with us, and also we have our security review already done for some of the teams, which could ramp up our speed to implement that tool. So we use this GetSet for us. A lot of things were in consideration. These are the things that I'm just talking about are just on top of my mind. So there were a lot of other things.
That's yeah, a lot of things that you have to think of, yeah, when looking for a platform. And you mentioned, so some of your team, 50 to 60%, I think you said, were familiar with the Gearset platform, and you were looking for something that people had familiarity with. But I'm assuming it's still, with a new platform comes a new process, so you still need to train your team. How did you go about training the team and making sure that they had everything they needed to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. They know Gearset, but they did not know pipelines, or they did not know what are the filters that we need to use, because every team uses a tool in a different way that it's supposed to be or they intended to be. So we have our custom comparison filters. We have our custom metadata syncing to our AWS code commits, which we connected using SSH keys in the past, but then we used AWS keys in the later on. And we also have connects with our account manager on the gear set. For any major releases happen, we did request them to have a connect with us, a 30-minute connect to discuss about the major release that's happening so that our team gets trained. And if they have any questions, they'll ask in that platform. But any other issues that are going around or any other knowledge gaps we use docs that the docs website that the Gears provide, and also the chat support that I mentioned in the past, like which was 15 to 20 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes of response time for us. So these are the things that we used to train our team, and we also have some internal documentation on both AWS side, Salesforce side, and GearSet side, how to use all these three tools together.
Cool. And you mentioned the three tools there. So you've got, and I'm sure internally you're evolving. You've got Salesforce is evolving, GearSet's changing as well and coming out with new things. I know you've worked quite closely with some of the product team at GearSet to come up with some new features, and you've given some requests. What would you say is the most impactful change that you've sort of been involved with on the GearSet platform?
So one of the requests that were raised back in 2021 or 2022, if I don't remember, was around the cherry picking of the picklist values. So since we started using the version control. It was just compare and deploy. It was pretty straightforward. We're just using the deployments over there. But if we are using the version controls, it was very hard to cherry pick. Like I can develop 10 picklist values and someone can develop 5. And we only want to deploy mine 5 and someone else 5. So it was very hard. We used to go back to VS Code and manually cherry pick those changes and deploy. So this was a request, and we requested them. And I know, like just like some ideas around, we thought it would take a year or two to just build that, but within 2 months, we got a notification from the product team saying like, "Hey, this is already in work, and we're going to deploy next month. Do you want to test it out?" And I was like, "That's cool." And in 3 months, we got the entire cherry picking. And once someone gives you something, we request more. So I started asking more from there, like XML parsing issue. Salesforce has a weird way of comparing the XML formats and the alignment of XML formats. But when you compare, it shows as a difference, but there's no difference technical. So that was one of the things that we compared. But again, these were like the minor limitations at the point of time. Cherry picking was a major limitation, and we thought like it would not do it. And we were thinking about some other mechanisms to work around. But since it was done, it was a easier mechanism. Like we got some of the things that are coming in. I was like, Compare 2.0 was one of the thing. Sandbox deployment history is another thing. Again, even though like we get all the new features, also you still have some limitations which we are still working with the GearSet support team, which I already got information from our account manager and the product team that they're already in progresses. Yeah, like approval process is one of the things, and for the pipelines, we got rate limits. Again, these are our team specific things which we are looking at, but Git has different limitations too. So.
That's great. Yeah, I know from the product team, you've really had a big impact. So thank you for always chatting to them and helping us develop the platform.
Absolutely.
I know you're also very passionate about establishing a DevOps culture within your team, but DevOps culture can mean so many things to different things to different people. What does it actually mean to you?
Yeah, DevOps culture is again, you just talked about we are not just saying a DevOps process or a DevOps something, right? We're saying it as DevOps culture. Absolutely, DevOps is a culture, and it's all about the mindset of how you're collaborating and how you're continuously improving the project, and also adaptability of it. Many think it's a process that needs to be followed, and that's about it, but it's not about that. It has to be a continuous improvement. It's all the team come together following one unified process to make sure the system runs faster, and you're delivering faster to your stakeholders is the main thing that people need to think about. And also, many people have an idea saying that, hey, DevOps is just one process and it has to be followed in the same way. It's not that. DevOps is not one size fit all approach. It's not like one size compression socks or something like that. It has to be tailored to everyone's specific needs. Even in the same, let's say I have 100 people team and someone else has 100 people team. That doesn't mean that The size of the team defines the DevOps process. It's the structure of the team and how your stakeholders get the things delivered is how you build your own process over there. And again, it varies from smaller team to larger team. It varies from organization structures. It varies from, again, it's not a universal solutions. It has to be tailored to each and everyone's approach. The team has to sit together. They have to figure out how you want to release something from a development to a production. And all the team needs to sit together and say like, hey, these are the positives, these are the negatives, and this makes your system faster, this makes your system slower. And so once they establish it, it's not the end of it. You still need to improve it so that it's more even faster and you're delivering it ad hocly to your stakeholders. You need to think that DevOps is sitting behind the scenes and doing everything for you.
Okay, so how did you build a DevOps culture in your team?
Again, from your lessons learned. So we did some, again, when I talked about it, we are doing direct deployments in production and moving changes as needed, which were impacting the stakeholders. And our team definitely knew that it's a crucial thing for our team so that we don't impact our stakeholders. Since our business is very much fastly evolving, we wanted to make sure that this DevOps process was set up. So our team was already in agreement with that, so we don't have to train them a lot on that. But also so there were some knowledge gaps and like what is impacting the stakeholders and how we were deviating from the path when we are deploying it, like what are the things that are overriding someone else's changes, and it's increasing the time for the deployment to happen. So these were all the things that our team felt again through lessons learned, and we had to improve our DevOps process from there.
And you say that it keeps on evolving, like nothing's static. So how do you keep your team at the forefront of DevOps best practices?
It's not just DevOps. Salesforce is also a completely evolving process. Like we are talking for the last 17 minutes. In 17 minutes, Salesforce would have released something which someone would have not known. So you have to be on the bar to learn the new stuff going on. You don't need to know everything out of it. My idea around learning anything is like you need to know the top 10 features that are being released for that quarter for Salesforce or like even for any other tools. You just need to understand it. And also there were a lot of see again, this is not just around Salesforce, not just on DevOps, it's on both the parties over there. So we had lessons learned, and we have an approach that we implemented because we were working so much on the projects. We ignored like what are the Salesforce that are releasing, and we missed a lot of things on the flows that hey, these are the new features and all this. So we have a 1 hour setup for every major release that Salesforce does. And in that dedicated session, everyone comes together and we go into multiple websites, Salesforce release notes, and then we have already experienced people, experienced Salesforce websites that like Salesforce Ben, Apex Hours, and they're already industry experts. They read through the entire release notes, which we don't have to, like 300 pages document, we don't have to. And we find top 10 features over there. We put it in one document that we use here. And then in that first 20 minutes, everyone does the research and puts over there. And the next 40 minutes or 60 minutes, we just sit in the meeting, scrim through all the features that we think that might be useful for stakeholders or even for our tech team so that we can improve our process. So this is what we do on the Salesforce. But on the GearSet side, again, in the past, previously I mentioned that we have an account manager. We also have the in-app pop-ups that come up. Like this is a new feature that's released, and if we find something is interesting, we post it on our Slack channels, saying that hey, this is a new feature that came in. Yeah, because it was a lesson learned for us. Because as in last year, Salesforce went from 3 filters in the dashboard to 5 filters, and we did not know about it because we never read the release notes for that 1 year. And it was very key feature for our stakeholders, which we did not implement it. And because of that, we have 1 hour sessions. October is the winter release, and we have on September 13th, we have a call with our entire team to just discuss through the release notes.
For the last release, was there something like big that came out of that one that you were able to jump on?
Yeah, so instant search, we had like custom filters that they built and some dynamic fields and also something around the flows that our team was using. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've not heard other teams do that before with the 1 hour dedicated section, 20 minutes to research. That's really cool.
It is pretty
Good.
key because
Mm.
um, if you are out, you'll be outdated of a technology in a day or in an hour sometimes. And you don't need to deep dive into each and every single feature. You just need to understand on the top level. These are the top 10 features that are there. The reason why I would say like be on the top 10 features is that like you might be implementing them, but they might be outdated already. So with the new feature, it can be a plus for your team or even for the stakeholder. It might be improving the system faster. Like, for example, flows went from continuous to batch processing, which was a very key in the past too. So maybe you can use these features and make those decisions to improve your internal processes as well.
Very good advice. I'll ask you for another piece of advice. So those that are joining here today, they're looking, presumably, to try and build a successful DevOps process. What would you say is sort of like your key piece of advice to them?
I would say that the key piece of advice I would give for anyone who did not start it, you should start it, that's for sure. And start from the basic, just like, I mean, again, told you, right? We started with the manual production releases to the journey of entire pipeline. You don't have to just go through that in a day. You can go through what's working for you. You can start with change sets. If it's working for you, well and good. If it's not working, look for another one. There are a lot of other free tools that you have, SFDX commands and PM tools. You can build your own system as well. And then even if that's not working, go to the next step. Look for every third-party tool that's available. Then what is fitting for you? And then I would suggest go pieces by pieces and go through the entire journey until it will never be end. You have to still have continuous improvement. You should have, I would say, like for every DevOps process, you should have a base like dev to a production flow. You should have a metadata comparison mechanism. You should have a metadata backup mechanism, a recovery mechanism. You need to know when the changes were there, approval mechanisms. So, and also automations around it. So these are the things I would say. But again, you don't have to go fast on that. You can just go through your process and make sure that it works and fits your team.
Cool. And you've come a long way with chatting through the process that you've already had. Where are you and your team going next?
So we are at pipelines right now, and we are still thinking to make sure there are a lot of other changes that we're looking at. One is the sandbox comparison that we talked about. The next thing that we are looking at is to get rid of our developer and admin privileges from production itself, and we go everything to the pipeline, and we can see how the sales team or the marketing team is looking at our Salesforce are. Because if you are an admin, you can see everything, you know what everything is, you think everything is working as expected unless you log in as a sales team. So we want to go with a system with least privilege model, and these kind of things are the ones are in the next steps of our journey. More faster deployment, more lesser filters, narrowing down the filters and all those things.
Amazing. This has been great chatting through how you've built your successful DevOps process. I think we've got some time now for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, just pop them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and I'll start firing them over to Nikhil.
Awesome.
There's one that's come through. Okay. What KPIs do you track to measure the success of your DevOps process?
So the KPIs that we looked at, we just discussed around how many deployments we are improving and how many ad hoc releases that we're doing. So we have a two bi-weekly release we have, and we also want to do on-demand releases as well. So the number of releases, on-demand releases we do, and how faster we can do, those are one of the KPIs we use. And also how many errors we're reducing and reducing into the production when we're trying to deploy it. And also the other thing which we look at is the time from the build to deploy, how much time we are saving over there and how faster we can do that.
Okay. One here. What are the drawbacks of DevOps in your experience and where it should not be applied?
Good question. I can think about a lot of drawbacks too. Since I mentioned all the positives, there are a lot of drawbacks too. So like, for example, if you're trying to deploy a pick list value, I was very happy when I was doing it in production because it's a 2-minute task. I can do just like that. But deploying through the DevOps process, I need to go to dev, in QAT, pre-prod if you have it, or production. So it's a process that takes, let's say, 1 hour of deployment. So there are implications around it. There are issues around it, but we still need to go through the process as it will not override some of the changes. There are a lot of other things as well. One is someone's change can block in the initial phases of when you're implementing the DevOps process, if you're using a single branch model. But if you're going to a multi-branch model, then no one's changes is impacting the other people's changes. Maybe if I answer the question, yep.
Oh. Okay. Go. Just one, could you mention again the main subsidiary processes? Sorry, just jump there.
What is
Main
that?
subsidiary processes of DevOps that are key.
Oh, so I would say that the starting is like having a pipeline management. Like pipeline doesn't mean that you need to have a process for that. Like deploying through dev to UAT to production or dev to into UAT to pre-prod to production, whatever that process, that is the main thing. The other thing is to have a version control, like having a Git repositories or anything that backs up your code every time there's a deployment or a daily backups, however it's needed, so that it's easy to recover or easy to know when a change has happened on one of the values over there. And then alignment in the team where you can have like what is the best DevOps process over there. And that and again, like how you're deploying, when you're deploying, like how you can deploy it, and how your team gets informed, how your stakeholders are informed with the new releases too.
Cool. Did you evaluate using the out-of-the-box Salesforce DevOps offering?
Code, like you're talking about change set or SFDX command, we use DevOps Center. Yes, we did look into that, but change set doesn't connect to the Git or code commit over there. So we had to ignore that. Yep.
Which is the best environment for introducing approval mechanism?
Great question. So I would say that it depends upon how your pipeline is. So our pipeline is devs. Every dev and admin has their own individual sandboxes. Then we have an integration sandbox where it's a blanket sandbox where everyone deploys the changes and see if there are conflicts or not. So the next step is just creating the direct PRs into the UAT, and that's where we introduced our approval mechanisms. So the approval mechanism should be right at the full Apex classes runs. And at that point of time, I would say it's the best mechanism to have the approval processes. So full run sandbox is the one that you need to use for the approval mechanisms, and it has to be a full sandbox too. I would say that because all the data do produce different results compared to no data sandboxes.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more. So I've seen this one. Do you feel that having a separate team/function defining and designing DevOps important, or should that be handled by release management team, i.e., who should own this?
Great question. So I worked in both the settings. One is in a release management setting, and one is a DevOps process through the entire admins and developers doing that process too. It depends upon how the org is built, but I would say that it works best on the both worlds. You don't need to have a separate team if your admins and developers are capable of doing the entire end-to-end process. But also, again, it depends upon the team size too. If there are 100 people and multiple dev teams, having a centralized release team would make sense. But if it's like 5 to 10 devs in one team setting, you don't need to have a separate release team around it. Again, it depends upon company to company and team to team. I've worked in both the settings. Right now, our setting is devs and admins do their own releases over here because they know more about their components than the next person reviewing it.
Makes sense. That's all we've got time for Q&A wise, but there have been a lot of questions coming in, so we'll probably put these to you, Nikhil, and then we'll make sure responses get back to those who have asked, or in the email that comes with the recording. So I'm going to hand back to Simon now. Thank you so much, Nikhil. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Simon.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Nikhil, for taking the time to share your experiences, and also Nicola for leading the conversation. And thanks everyone in the audience as well for coming and sharing your questions as well. I hope you understand a bit more about the DevOps process and how you can implement this successfully in your own company and or workflow. Thanks everyone. Hopefully see you soon at the next Salesforce Ben webinar.